My point is that I've lost it, and I'm probably the last guy to give you advice right now on how to lock out the world, because I have to put on headphones and crank music to get through a workout right now. And I know this. I know I'm detrimental in it, and I'm aware of it, and I'm trying to correct it. And it bugs the shit out of me. It really does. It makes me feel like less of a person.
So let me tell you about a transition that I went through.
Yes.
First of all, before the war, the military sent me to college. So I had to go to college. And as I said before, I was super focused when I went to college. I'd been in the SEAL teams for 10 years. I was a go-getter. I was a hard charger. I was like, oh, you want me to read this book? Boom. I would sit down and just force myself to read it. And then got back to the SEAL teams. And like when I went to college, I literally read every single thing that I was assigned. And nobody does that in college. Nobody does that. I read every single page of every single thing I was assigned during college. That's ridiculous. It's almost a waste of time. It's almost embarrassing. Echo definitely thinks it's a waste of time. But it was because I just could lock my brain down and get it done. Yeah. So then get back to the teams, and in the teams, officer in the teams, you have a lot of administrative paperwork to do, evaluations and after actions reports and all these things. And I would do the same thing. I just go into lockdown mode and put my brain on it, and boom, I'd go through it and just get it done. I would just be able to focus.
So like each thing.
Laser focus.
That report, done. Gone.
I'd be like,
memo.
Okay, give me that.
Gone.
Done.
Report, done.
Done.
Okay,
so I go to Iraq the first time, no big deal. I go to Iraq the second time. It's a much tougher deployment. It's guys are getting wounded. My guys are getting killed. And I come home, and I get put into running the training. And with running the training, all of a sudden, there's administrative requirements. And there was administrative requirements overseas as well. And you know what we did? Locked them down and got them done. I get home, and I remember the first time I got to do, I think it's evaluations, which in the military, in the Navy anyways, doing evaluations is a real pain. It's a real big administrative task.
Evaluations of your troops.
Of all the troops. At this place I was at, huge running training, I had 100 guys, and every one of them is like a little mini term paper or something. And it has to be perfect. Right. It's in the person's military record forever. They're really stressful about it. And I used to have no problem just hammering those things out. So I get back from that deployment, and I'm sitting down, and I start doing it. I'm like, this is stupid. This doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm doing this. Why do I have to do that? I kind of started saying the same things that I would always rag on people for saying. Like, this is stupid. Oh, now your men are stupid. You don't want to fill out the report and take care of your guys. You don't want to write a good evaluation.
The rest of their career isn't worth your 5 minutes to write this?
Okay, so but I heard myself saying this.
Right.
And what the constant undertone of all this was that this stuff doesn't matter. Combat was what mattered. And when you get back from that situation where, man, your buddies are getting killed, you're getting wounded, your friends are getting wounded, this piece of paper, it doesn't matter. And you say to yourself, I don't care about this. And at some point, and it took me maybe 2 or 3 months, I did what I had to do to get by. But as I sit there and I looked at myself and I said, you know what? The combat doesn't matter anymore. You're not in it. You're not in it right now. Right. This is now what matters.
Your mind was still there.
My mind was still there, thinking that was all that matters. And like I said on our last podcast, actually, it's in the past, and it doesn't matter anymore. So you know what you have to do? You have to be a man, and you have to do your job now, and this is what matters now. And that, to me, made a big transition for me. And I haven't even thought about this until you were talking about it, because I remember what it was like to go from when I went to college and before I deployed Romani, I would just be so laser focused, be able to just burn through things. Right. And then when I got back and it was not there, and it was all because I thought, this stuff doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters, there's guys getting killed overseas right now. That's what matters. And I had to say, you know what? No, that stuff doesn't matter right now. And and also I was in charge of training. And I said, what matters is doing this, getting guys trained to go overseas. And I became obsessed with that and slightly psychotic about getting guys ready for combat. I mean, I was
preparing them for what they were about to go into.
For what they were going into. And, I'm sure there were many SEALs that went through the training that I was overall in charge of and would attest to the fact that I was probably pretty borderline psychopathic at that point. But I think that's
who I want running my training. No
Absolutely.
offense, dude, but I want a psycho running my combat training.
Yep. So I
but
think...
what...
Go ahead.
Okay, you were just going to say you think...
I think that telling yourself and recognizing to yourself, why are you trying to do this thing? Because you're trying to do something because it does matter, right? It has to matter in some way, even if it's just filling out the paperwork to get your license from the DMV.
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't matter. Oh, actually, you know what? It does matter. You're going to get arrested if you get pulled. It's like, no, it does matter. These little things, these little stupid, meaningless tasks in life, they actually do matter. So you know what you do? You line them up and you freaking crush them. That's what you do. That's what you do. You line up these stupid, meaningless things and you crush them and you use them as an exercise in discipline. They become an exercise in discipline. Oh, this thing doesn't matter. Guess what? I'm going to crush it now. Bring it to me. Where's my DMV form? Watch me fill this out. That's what I'm going to do. So maybe I turn like some little meaningless things into a personal competition of discipline, but maybe that's not
how
a bad
consistent
plan.
are you making that happen though? This is I'm me
consistent.
talking to you
And
now.
let me tell you. So for instance, since we started the podcast, I have to read, basically a book a week, and then once I read it, I've got to go back into it.
Yeah, you do like a book report.
And go back through it and say, and how is this going to flow together? What part? So I'm spending a lot of time on that right now. And I've been able to do it every time so far.
Okay.
So I think
because I've lost my ability to be consistent. And that's what's really bumming me out. Like when I your book isn't, I mean, it's thick, but I should have been able to read this in 2 or 3 solid days of reading.
Yes.
I told you how successful I was.
Yes, not very.
And that bugs the shit out of me. And it's a fail. It's a.
You know what though? I think this is
a failure on my part.
I think that this is the same thing that we were talking about on the last podcast, and I think Echo said when you say, "Oh, you know what? I'm not going to finish this book right now." I don't really want to. It's sort of like when you say, "Oh, I'm not going to quit."
No, it's not that I don't want to, though.
That's what I'm saying. You say, "But I don't want to do it right now. I can push it off a little bit." You accept that. You accept that answer. You accept that answer. The soldier, Jody,
right,
wouldn't accept that answer. Would not.
Do you self-talk?
Not really. Not really. I'm not a guy that says, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. I just do it.
Right.
I just go and do whatever that thing is.
I think because you kind of have become that. So it's more of like, put kind of crudely, that's habitual for you to just do it. Remember how, and I think it was kind of funny where I use this example, like how you said, use it as an exercise of discipline. So I said this example one time where I was in line at the grocery store and I had a 12-pack of beer.
Do we have to relive this story right now?
And I was standing in line and there was maybe 3-4 people in front of me. So I'm like, all right, it's going to be a while for me to get up there. This beer is getting
heavy. And you decided you were going to hold the beer. I remember this story. Right. I remember this story.
Yeah. Dang. So exactly right. But it wasn't that, okay, and the reason I decided to hold the beer wasn't because that benefited me right then. It was an exercise in mental toughness.
But here's the okay, we're way off the question, but physical tasks, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
Because it's visceral. It's real. I can feel it. But to sit down and read the report on the sewer charges that are going to be coming in on the tax report for the city next year, what's going on Twitter?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing though, really.
But I'm wondering if my brain hasn't replaced the OxyContin with social media.
Yeah,
I had to quit drinking because, now we're way off the thing, but the hardcover came out last September. And
The hardcover.
I'm
Jody
sorry,
Middick's
of
book.
Unflinching, The Making of a Canadian Sniper by Jody Middick. It's printed by Simon & Schuster, Canada. Available on Amazon through jockostore.com. Click the link to Amazon. But yeah, okay, yeah.
So
Well, I already
the
said it.
hardcover
I already said it. So anyway, the hardcover
You
came
had to
out.
quit drinking.
I drank every day from the day it came out. So we had 450 people at the event. Kevin Newman, my buddy, he's a well-known news anchor in Canada, does an interview with me on the stage, and we get standing ovation. We go out, we celebrate. Me, the president of the company, my editor. We have a good night. The next day, if I wasn't having one drink, I was having 10, and that went from September to the New Year.
Yeah.
And I was getting fat, and I was sleeping in because I'm hungover and I'm not going to the gym. And I went, hang on, what's going on? Because this is it. Because I have my job as politician. I'm daddy. I'm friend. I'm advocate. And then the book it's a job, right? Selling a book's a job, full-time job. I need 9 days a week and 36 hours a day to do it. And so I had to make that's one of the reasons why I decided to do the bodybuilding thing. Because I'm like, well, you can't drink, and it'll be right till November because I need that. So I'm trying to figure out if my brain is looking for a new habit. Because I was diagnosed before as like anti-addictive, if that's even a real thing. But I had a doctor tell me once, he's like, you're pretty much an anti-addictive personality. Like, you won't get addicted to stuff. And there I was, addicted to OxyContin. Even though it's a physical thing more than a mental thing, but I still wouldn't trust me with a pill right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we got way off track, but I just...
Again, and I don't know what your therapist is going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what Jocko would tell you, though. These little things are things that I know you know how to do them. Yeah. You've done them your whole career in the military. You were watching a crossroad. And I know that might sound exciting to people that are out there that are thinking how crazy that must be. No, there's times where Jody was watching a crossroad and there was nothing going on for 4 days.
Yeah.
And he was watching that crossroad. And so you have that in you.
Yeah.
You just got to tell yourself that, you know what, this stuff now, this is what matters. And how are you going to tell yourself that this is what matters? It's because this is how it connects to the strategic picture. You can't say that this matters because of what it is right in front of me. Just like when you're looking at the crossroads, you're not thinking, oh, this crossroads is important because the crossroads is important. No, the reason it's important is because you are supporting keeping guys alive, which is going to help a mission out, which is going to help the overall strategy win.
The commander's intent.
The commander's intent, the whole 9 yards.
So I'm the commander now.
You are the commander. And also, what's your long-term mission? And that's like kind of, you just said it yourself, like, oh, I picked bodybuilding because you just gave yourself a mission.
Right.
So what's your administrative mission? Echo's made some big advances lately because he started freaking reading books.
Nice.
And he wasn't doing that before. But he got the long-term mission of, like, you know what? I'm going to learn as much as I possibly can. So you got a long-term mission with your constituents to be the best city councilman and represent. So when they ask you a question, you're like, boom. That's kind of the sort of psycho stuff that I would say is like, if anybody ever asked me a question, like when I was going to college, if they asked me any question about any of the reading, I'm going to know it. That's just a bizarre, what's that, OCD thing to be like, I'm going to know everything.
So you have 4 kids, you train every day, you get up at 4 in the morning. I got to get up at 4 in the morning. That's it. That's my answer.
Yeah. And
sorry to riff on you guys on that, man. Like, no, I know you wanted to do the questions, but the first question was easy because I'm like, oh, I'll just talk about what I used to do. And then that one was like, well, if I was to try and answer right now, I'd be lying. I'd be a liar. Yeah. And I can't. I have my moments still. Don't get me wrong. I'll have moments where I'm like, this has to get done, and I'll fire through a speech or I'll write a report or whatever it is, and then I lose it, and it's like fuck, it's gone.
And that's actually reinforcing what I just said. So when you have a near-term mission that you know what the outcome, you know what the result is, you know what the end state is, you know what the commander's intent is, like, hey, you got a speech in 2 days. Okay, now it's in 1 day. You can sit down and concentrate and get it done. Which where you've missed the connection now is the connection between these menial tasks that don't mean anything, and how can I put them to a long-term strategic goal? And one of the long-term strategic goals you can put into place, if nothing else, is I'm going to discipline my mind to do these menial tasks like a soldier. and that's pretty cool.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a T-shirt.
Yep.